Hi, while I have a lecture about Middle Passage written, I wanted to go over some slides with you as if we were in class and I could introduce the text. So, Middle Passage is a historical novel. It's set in 1830. It is the final voyage of an illegal slave ship. So, the slave trade was illegal in 1809 in the United States, even though slavery continued until 1865. And so um, it's narrated by a freed slave named Rutherford Calhoun, and he's originally from Illinois, and he's educated, and he was freed when he was younger, and he leaves to go to New Orleans to live it up, I guess you could say. He likes to party and womanize and gamble. And he also falls in love though with this woman. And in the opening chapter, she blackmails him into marriage, and he tries to escape. And so he goes on to a ship and then realizes it is a ship that is headed to Africa to pick up slaves. So what the book is, the journal entries he keeps while he's on the ship. So I have made a glossary for you and a list of characters throughout that you can find under files, and it's also linked in the lecture. These it should save you a lot of time. So there's a lot of nautical terms, terms having to do with ships and ocean. There's also a lot of terms referring to Greek philosophers, historical figures, theorists, and then you have the main characters. Rutherford, the woman who is interested in marrying him, Isadora, the captain of the ship, Captain Falcon, Peter Kringle, and then Josiah Squibb, who is the cook and who he meets before he gets on the ship. The setting is New Orleans in 1830, and then on the ship itself, Africa, and then back to New Orleans. You should educate yourself a little bit more about the slave trade if you haven't. This map is pretty helpful in looking at the numbers of people who were kidnapped and who were brought to different areas of South, Central, and North America. The trip in which you'll be reading about is 5,300 miles from New Orleans to Guinea, and this is the area which it takes place, where the book takes place. I'm not going to show this right now, but I do suggest you watch this clip from Amistad. You could Google it and just say clip on the ship if you want to, or enslavement clip from Amistad, and it's based on a true story, and it gives you a real sense of what being in the ship would have been like for the book. Even though the book is more of a humorous adventure novel, the topic overall is serious, and so I think it's helpful to look at this clip. I want you to be aware that Africa is a highly colonized continent with many countries that but two basically that have been colonized over time, and the influence of the colonization impacted clearly the ability for them to promote and use slaves, enslaved people, enslaved Africans. So Middle Passage, it is sort of episodic, so we learn and kind of get a sense of the story through Rutherford and the episodes he goes through. He's sort of a rogue, and his morals are sort of relative, but he does appear superior in relationship to Captain Falcon and Kringle because of his marginalization and because he's trying to work through, many obstacles. So for each of the entries, I have set up here a little quick overview of the chapter or the entry for the first 5. So as you look through these, you'll see each entry and kind of an overview. This will be helpful to you, so if you need to go back and remember, oh wait, what scene was that? You could look at this and remember exactly sort of where things take place. He will, once they get to Africa, meet some Africans and get to know them once they get on the ship. Ganyama, who is an Almaseri. Almaseri is not a real name of a tribe, but it is kind of a created name for the story. There's also, it should be Balika, who is a young girl who Calhoun gets to know. And so here's sort of an overview of those first 5 entries, and with different characters and different plot points. So I also suggest, if you are having a hard time, because the book is dense and it has a lot of references, definitely use the audio book. Many students have said buying it on Audible was really helpful because they could hear the characters' voices while they were reading along, and that enabled them to really follow the story more fully. There are discussion questions you're going to be doing after each one, and that will lead us to a reading quiz, and then finally we have the prompt for the essay. And this is the final essay for the course, which is your final kind of exam, as it will. So how does Rutherford Calhoun accept or resist internalized depression? And in what ways is it connected to his moral relativism? That's a secondary question you don't have to include, but you can. You do want to include, though, examples from a variety of his relationships. And I'm going to talk more about internalized depression as well as post-traumatic slave syndrome, which I have a lecture on as well. So I hope this gives you a little overview of the story. It does start picking up once he gets on the boat and he starts on the ship and gets on his way. We start learning more about Rutherford and Captain Falcon and a lot of the issues at hand. So if you have questions, let me know, and hopefully this will be of use.